What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and it's that time again. Time for me to talk to you about the NFL playoff games this weekend. We're into the divisional round. The 4 teams that had byes last week are now going to be taking to their home fields, defending their home turf against the 4 winners from last week. We got 4 really good games on tap, and let's get right into them. I'm going to start with the team that broke my perfect prediction streak last week. So we're going to start with the Denver Broncos coming into Gillette Stadium to play the New England Patriots. The biggest storyline to me coming into this game, aside from all the stuff surrounding Tim Tebow, is Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels was signed by the New England Patriots, and he will be a special advisor for this game. Josh McDaniels is taking over as the Patriots' offensive coordinator next season, but he's come in a little early, and he's going to be what they called a special advisor for this game. Obviously, it wouldn't be a huge issue if Josh McDaniels hadn't been a former coach in Denver. So a lot of people are crying foul on that. But, you know, to me, it's not a huge issue. It's a storyline heading into the game like many others. And I suppose, you know, if you can throw game-winning touchdown passes in playoff games from illegal formations, then, you know, it should be perfectly fine to hire a team's former coach as a special assistant. Anyways, clearly I'm not over it yet. For the Patriots are not going to have Andre Carter on their defensive line, and the Broncos are not going to have Eric Decker, one of their wide receivers. He's not going to be in the game either. What does this mean? Probably going to mean another big game for Demaryius Thomas, who, of course, caught the aforementioned game-winning touchdown there, and had a couple of just big play receptions, burning Ike Taylor all day. Could be another big game for Demaryius Thomas. We know the Patriots' pass defense can be a little suspect at times. But I also wouldn't sleep on Eddie Royal. Eddie Royal coming out of the... Well, usually he would come out of the slot. Now he's going to be their wide receiver number 2. But if the Patriots try to overcompensate against Demaryius Thomas, could be a big day for Eddie Royal. It's worth mentioning, too, Wes Welker was either did not participate in practice earlier this week or was limited. And that's only worth mentioning, obviously, because it's Wes Welker and he's such a huge part of the Patriots' offense. But I remember reading an article in the Boston Herald earlier this year that was titled, "Only a Twit Doubts Wes Welker," or something like that. And so I don't doubt Wes Welker. I know he's going to be in the game, and I know he's going to have huge impact. The last game these two played, New England won the game 41-23. That score is not indicative of how close the game was. Denver got really sloppy with the ball in the second half. I believe they fumbled the ball 3 times. And the Pats just took advantage of that and snuffed out any hope the Broncos had of winning the game. Obviously, they're not going to be able, the Broncos, I mean, are not going to be able to repeat that feat and have any chance of winning this football game. Denver can run on this defense. They had the top-ranked running attack in the league this year. They're going to be able to run on the Patriots. The difference here is I feel like the Patriots can do whatever they want to Denver's defense. They're going to be able to throw on this defense. They're going to be able to run on this defense. The Patriots should be able to do whatever they want with the football. Let's not forget, this defense for Denver gave up 40 points to Buffalo. It's an offense that gave up, or a defense that gave up 40 points to Buffalo in Week 16. So what the hell are they going to be able to do if they're giving up 40 points to Buffalo? What the hell are they going to be able to do against New England? You know what I mean? Which is a bit of a scary proposition for Denver fans. For Denver to have a chance at winning this game, it's going to be about handling the ball, run. Your team is based around the running attack. Don't abandon that. Run the football. In the same vein, don't fumble the football. There's no way this team's going to be able to win this game if they're giving up fumbles. So it's going to be about protecting the ball. It's going to be about clock management. if Denver can lead in a large margin in time of possession, probably a good indicator that this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a close game, but at the same time, I can't say that Denver's going to come into Gillette Stadium and beat the Patriots. I just don't think it's going to happen. I'm predicting the Patriots are going to win this game. I don't think it will be a lopsided win. I think it's going to be a close game, but at the same time, the Tebow train stops here. The other AFC playoff game this week is the Houston Texans traveling to Baltimore to play the Ravens. My biggest storyline coming into this is going to be the mutual health of both Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. These guys, of course, have been total beasts for Baltimore for a number of seasons, and the two of them had injury-related issues late in the season. So their combined health, their mutual health, is going to be a big thing to watch for Baltimore. These two teams did play earlier this year. Baltimore won the game 29-14. Houston last week, of course, beat Cincinnati to get here. And they beat Cincinnati in quite convincing fashion and beat them at every aspect of the football game. But at the same time, they're now coming into Baltimore to play a team that's like Cincinnati, but better than Cincinnati in every single aspect of the game. Baltimore's got a better defense. They're going to be able to run the ball. Cincinnati was not able to run the ball on Houston. Baltimore's going to be able to. You talk about Ray Rice, and you talk about Ricky Williams behind him. And Baltimore is going to be able to run the ball. Whereas Cincinnati was not able to with Cedric Benson the fraud. Houston won this game with a combo of big run plays and big plays on defense. Of course, Arian Foster, this is the Cincinnati game, of course I'm talking about. Arian Foster had 153 yards on the ground, and Houston's defense forced, I believe it was 3 interceptions and 4 sacks. So they kept pressure on Andy Dalton the whole game. I don't think they're going to be able to get the same kind of pressure on Joe Flacco, who, you know, say what you will about Joe Flacco. I'll just diverge here for a minute. Say what you will about Joe Flacco. He had a bit of a down season this year. Joe Flacco still had a good season. He threw for over 3,600 yards and threw 20 touchdown passes. He still had a good season. Obviously, that was overshadowed by all of the monumental quarterback performances that we had this year. But, you know, Joe Flacco still had a good season. So, I mean, Flacco's not a rook back there. He's not a rook like Andy Dalton was. You know, Flacco is a relatively seasoned quarterback who knows what he's doing back there. So, you know, Baltimore is just a totally different beast. The Ravens, I think, are going to be able to stuff the box with 7 and 8 guys and stop Arian Foster. I think they're going to be double teaming Andre Johnson all game, because Andre Johnson's obviously their biggest threat. TJ Yates is going to have nowhere to go with the football. He's going to have to be looking for his second and third reads, and by that time, Baltimore's defense is going to have that pocket crushed. So I predict Baltimore is going to win this game fairly handily. I don't really think there's going to be too much risk here. So Baltimore most definitely will be going on to the AFC Championship game. We go over to the NFC. We have, of course, the New York Giants, who very handily dispatched the Atlanta Falcons in the previous round, coming into Lambeau, the frozen tundra. Actually, if you looked outside, it's frozen tundra here in Nova Scotia today. But they're going to be going to Lambeau Field and playing the Green Bay Packers. Giants, of course, are coming in hot. They had a total team victory against Atlanta last week. Virtually every aspect in the game they dominated. This is a rematch of a game in, I believe it was week 13, which was an extremely close game that the Packers won 38-35. They won it on a last-second field goal by Mason Crosby. In that game, there were 7 total touchdown passes. I believe Rodgers threw 4, and Eli Manning threw 3. They each threw an interception. The Giants topped 100 yards rushing combined between Ahmad Bradshaw and Brandon Jacobs, and I actually think this game is going to end up being quite similar to that game. I think it's going to be very close. I think it's going to be a shootout. The Giants, I would say, have a better defense than the Packers, but at the same time, I don't think they're going to be able to stop Aaron Rodgers. I consider Aaron Rodgers to be one of the best, if not the best, players in football right now. Noteworthy, the Packers are likely to get Greg Jennings back from his knee injury that kept him out of the lineup for a couple of weeks. So they're likely to get Greg Jennings back. He obviously won't be 100%. He'll probably have a little bit of rust on him, plus, you know, he doesn't want to re-aggravate that knee injury, but he is back there, and he is going to, of course, deserve respect. The big question here is, can either of these teams stop the pass? In the previous game, as we said, 7 total touchdown passes. Neither team could stop the pass in that game. But you think you have 2 such talented wide receiver cores here. You look at the Green Bay Packers, you look at Greg Jennings, you look at Jordy Nelson, you look at the ageless wonder Donald Driver, you look at Jermichael Finley, you look at James Jones, and then you turn around on the other side, you look at the New York Giants, you're looking at Victor Cruz, who's one of the best young players in football right now, Hakeem Nicks, Mario Manningham. These are 2 teams that are built to be pass teams, and with, you know, relatively suspect secondaries. This is just going to be a phenomenal game. It's going to be such a fun game to watch. I think this is going to be the game of the week. If you watch one playoff game this week, this is the game you should watch, Green Bay and the Giants. I expect Green Bay to win this game. Green Bay is who I'm picking. But like I say, it's going to be an exciting game. It's going to be close. We've said... excuse me. Pretty much everything has been said about Aaron Rodgers, about what a great quarterback he is. You can't sleep on Eli Manning. Manning threw for 277 yards against Atlanta last week, threw for 347 against Green Bay in Week 13. You can't sleep on these guys. They can sneak right up behind you and take this game right out from under you if you're the Packers. So you gotta play this game close. You gotta play it tight. It may come down to a field goal again at the end, but I think it's going to be high scoring. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. The Giants, I think, are going to be able to outrun them on the ground, but I expect Green Bay to come out on top. And the only other game left on the slate is arguably the best offense in football, the New Orleans Saints, traveling to San Francisco to play arguably the best defense in football, the 49ers. This is the most dangerous game that the Saints can possibly imagine, and I'll tell you why. When you look at New Orleans, it's a tale of 2 different teams. You have this team that plays at home and this team that plays on the road. At home, New Orleans is unstoppable. When you get them in that dome, on artificial turf, you can't. You cannot stop this team. So far this season, they're 9-0, including their playoff win last week, averaging 41 points a game at home this year. They're just dynamite on the artificial turf and in the dome. They're just unreal. But on the road, this is a very human team. On the road, the Saints were 5-3 this year. Good record, but not a great record. And they were only scoring 27 points a game. Home field advantage to the Saints means 2 touchdowns. That's big. You can't ignore that. And it's also the Saints playing on grass. Drew Brees, since he took over as Saints quarterback, has, I think it's a barely over 500 record when playing on grass. It's something like 16-14 or something like that. So he's barely over 500, and he's averaging I think less than 2 touchdown passes per game playing on grass. So everything here is setting up for the 49ers and that defense. Your point averages, when you're talking about New Orleans playing on the road versus San Francisco playing at home, your point averages say that San Francisco is going to win this game by a single point. The point averages are 28 for San Francisco, 27 for New Orleans. I think it's going to be close, but I don't necessarily think that that's the way that it's going to go. Everybody talks about the 49ers run game. You got Frank Gore, you got Kendall Hunter. Two very good running backs. And that's the way San Francisco is built. San Francisco is built as a ground and pound team. We're gonna hit you in the mouth, and we're gonna keep hitting you in the mouth for 4 quarters until you say uncle. We're gonna run the ball all over you. That's the way San Francisco is built. But in their last 4 games, the last 4 games of the regular season, you know, their running game has looked average. I have a couple of numbers here that I want to hit you with. In the last 4 games, Frank Gore has been averaging under 60 yards a game with 3 touchdowns. So he's still getting close to a touchdown a game, but 60 yards a game, you know, is fairly pedestrian. Now, you combine that with Kendall Hunter. Kendall Hunter hasn't scored a touchdown in his last 4 games, but he's adding an extra 40 yards a game. So the chances of San Francisco running, for at least 100 yards in this game are pretty good. Because, of course, you're talking about New Orleans. Their defense isn't great. So the chance of these guys running for at least 100 yards is pretty good. But you also have to take into consideration New Orleans has some running backs too. 2 real good ones, Pierre Thomas and Darren Sproles. Sproles will give you the same kind of numbers there that Hunter was giving you, around 40 yards a game. He might get a touchdown here, he might not. He had a very good game against Detroit. And then you have Pierre Thomas, who's giving you about the same in terms of yardage, 35, 40 yards a game, and has knocked in a couple of touchdowns. So the running advantage is not all that stacked towards San Francisco. Most people are very quick to put up, oh, you know, San Francisco's got got this great running game. But when you actually look at the numbers of the two side by side, especially lately, they're very comparable. San Francisco might have a slight edge, and they have that edge, the fact that they're playing at home, but it's certainly not a landslide. The fact of the matter is, for San Francisco to win this game, they need Frank Gore. They need Frank Gore to run for big yardage. Ideally, if Frank Gore runs for 100 yards and maybe knocks in a touchdown, maybe even 2, San Francisco's got a damn good chance to win this game. However, I said before, the Saints' defense isn't great. However, if you look at the numbers, the Saints' run defense ranked 12th in the league. And that was hard for me to believe when I looked it up. But they ranked 12th in the league, which is really not that bad. It's outside the top 10, yes, but remember, there's 30 teams in this league. I apologize about my phone going off there. So, I mean, they're about middle of the pack in run defense, a little better than middle of the pack. You know, I don't think San Francisco's going to have a whole lot in terms of a pass game in this game. This is going to be a close game. It's going to be another one of these shootouts. And the question is New Orleans' defense going to be good enough to stop Frank Gore and Kendall Hunter and keep this game close? I think they're going to. I think it's going to be a close game, but I am picking New Orleans on the road to upset the home team San Francisco to go on and play Green Bay in the NFC Championship game. Those are my predictions. I'll just run over them one more time for you right quick. I've got New Orleans beating Denver at home. I've got Baltimore beating Houston at home. I've got the Packers beating the Giants at home in a very close game. And I've got New Orleans on the road beating the San Francisco 49ers. My name's Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_Guy on Twitter. Follow, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Thank you so much for the views. See you later.